service, almost everybody takes that monthly pension, so you don't have to tell them, right? But it's also whether under the hybrid or the ARC. However, whatever the three plans, you must have a periodic monthly payment. Okay. Maybe I will stop there, and I'm going to take, I don't know, am I calling on people, Steve, or someone else? Okay, forgive me, I'm calling on you. I don't know everybody's name, so I'll just go like you. We'll start with him over there, because you had your hand up for a while.
But in terms of buying past year's service,
yes,
timing is everything in that regard, because when the stock market's doing well, you are making a lot of money in your alternate retirement plan and potentially have the ability to buy all those years of service, and then if the stock market were to take a dump, you may not be able to buy all your years. Is that correct?
Well, yes, in the sense that you can buy your years of service with whatever happens to be in your ARP account. So at that particular point. So we have a lot of people who know for sure that they want to switch, and they're not sure if they want to switch from the hybrid into the SAG, for instance. So they can't make their decision right now. And so what they do is they move all their money into a stable value account, and then you know whatever the stock market does, you know that your money is going to be there with a tiny growth. Not going to grow fast, but it's going to be there, and you can do that. If you're more of a gambler, then you can obviously take your money and put it in whatever you want, in as risky an investment as you want, and you might be able to buy more past service if you're lucky, but you would, of course, be able to buy less past service if you're unlucky. And as I've said before, if you're really, really a gambler, I do represent the dealers, the UAW dealers at Foxwoods, and 32 black, put it on 32 black, and you can get a lot of past service, or probably none. Yeah, anybody? Let's see, there was a hand over there next, but now it's down, I guess. So yeah, go ahead.
I had a question. If we switch and say the contract negotiations change in the future, is that going to influence the percentage we use potentially to calculate our pension, or are we locked in at that percentage now in case the contract negotiations change, or the tier 2 breakpoint changes or something like that?
Yeah, well, let me say a couple things. The tier 2 breakpoint will change. So let me explain what the tier 2 breakpoint. Does everybody know what it is? Okay.
Most of them don't.
Hurt your hair. Okay. Tier 2 breakpoint. Over the years, many pension plans, defined benefit plans, since their purpose is to provide overall retirement security for people when they retire, generally after career service, have paid used a different pension multiplier depending upon whether your earnings were above or below the Social Security maximum. The theory is, if they're under the Social Security maximum, you don't need as much pension because you got Social Security. But to the extent your earnings exceed the Social Security maximum, then you need more money because you're not getting any Social Security payments on those earnings. That was the theory that caused a number of defined benefit plans over the years to adopt two different multipliers instead of like just 1.5%. A multiplier for below the Social Security maximum, which is smaller, and a multiplier for above the Social Security maximum, which is higher. So good old Tier 1, which effectively, didn't die in 1984, but no new employees were allowed in it. In good old Tier 1, effectively the multiplier is 2% of the money over the Social Security maximum, and it's much, much less of the money below the Social Security maximum. But there was this tricky thing in it. The Social Security maximum was fixed at what it was in like 1950 something, $4,800. Okay, so that means the much lower multiplier only applies to the first $4,800 of your earnings. Even if you're in Tier 1 and you retire in 2025, it's still only $4,800. Even though obviously the Social Security maximum by then would be whatever, $180,000. I think it's 125 right now. I think it's 125 right now. Okay, so when Tier 2 was being negotiated back in 1981 to be effective by 1984, the state's proposal was that a lower multiplier exists below the Social Security maximum and a higher multiplier exists above the Social Security maximum, and that it not be fixed, because they made the argument that $4,800 was irrational. It shouldn't be fixed. It should go up as something goes up, and they actually proposed the cost of living. And the union said, no, we want it fixed. Just like we did with Tier 1, where it stays at an absurdly low level forever. And as a compromise, This was 1981 when people were looking at inflation rates of what, like 18%, something like that. The unions agreed to 6%. That is, the Tier 2 breakpoint was fixed in 1981. I don't remember exactly what. It was something reasonable, 20 grand maybe, something, I don't remember. And it would go up 6% every year. And that seemed like, to the unions, like a really good deal, because 6% is way less than what the state wanted. They wanted the cost of living. It was running like 8%. And so for a number of years, that turned out to be a really good decision. 6% was actually lower than the cost of living increases for a number of years in the mid to late 80s and maybe even into the 90s. But at some point, it started to be abandoned. And for a number of years now, the cost of living, of course, has gone up way less than 6%. But the Tier 2 breakpoint keeps going up 6% every year. And that means this lower multiplier in Tier 2 applies to more and more of your salary. Okay? The lower multiplier in Tier 2 is 1 1/3%. So for all of your money, all of your salary below the breakpoint, your multiplier is 1 1/3%. For all of your money above the breakpoint, your multiplier goes up by another 0.5%, so it's 1.8333 repeated. So obviously, the lower the breakpoint, the better off you are. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And there also is a goofy little cap in there that it can't go up more than the average of the overall. So I can explain it to you, but it's not necessary. In this 6%, there's a cap which we haven't hit yet. There's a reasonable chance we could hit it over the next 4 or 5 years. But what we agreed to in 2011 was to try to fix the Tier 2 breakpoint, this problem that it's going up too fast. And negotiations will be starting sometime early next year to be concluded before July 1, 2013. There's 0.5% of payroll, not out of employees, out of the administration, has set aside 0.5% of payroll to try to adjust the Tier 2 breakpoint. Okay? So the Tier 2 breakpoint will be getting better, which was your question. Now let me ask the more important, not that that wasn't important, but that was the second question. And your real question was, could I buy into service and then have the benefits changed and I get screwed, right? Or buy into the hybrid and have the benefits changed and I get screwed. So let's take that. I can say 2 really important things about that. First of all, it is our position, and we think strongly supported by the federal courts, that you can't change someone's benefits with respect to years of service that they've already earned. And particularly which you have paid for. We've never done that. We've never taken away people's benefits with respect to the years of service that we've always made changes. Like Tier 2, for instance, was created for new people. It didn't affect the longer people. And there are, like I said, very strong court cases that suggest that. Even on the COLA, which as you know we did change, the COLA, we both lowered it and increased it. And it'll turn out to be better or worse depending on what the cost of living is. If we go back to years like we had in the 80s and early 90s, the new COLA is actually way better than the old one. I don't know what it's going to do, obviously. I don't have a crystal ball. But anyway, so there's that. And the second thing is, your benefits are fixed in contract until 2022. Okay, so no one is going to change your benefits before 2022 except for you by collective bargaining. I don't think anybody is going to turn around and take away benefits that you've already paid for by agreement. I mean, I can tell you, I'm never going to recommend it. I don't think any union leader is ever going to recommend it. So I can't imagine it happening. What happens after 2022? Is there going to be negotiations? The answer is yes. No question that it's going to be negotiations. And yes, it could affect the benefit formula. I think it's extremely unlikely that it would affect the benefit formula for any years of service that people have already earned, which is, of course, what you're paying for, right? When you buy years of service, you're buying past service, not future service. I think it's unlikely that we would do anything that would affect even future years of service in any noticeably, bad way. But for the past years of service, I mean, we ain't going to agree to it, I'll tell you that. And we have a very good argument that it's illegal even if we did. Yes?
Just a follow-up, Dan. I went to the Gottfried and Somberg presentation in Glastonbury.
That's a private company that, okay.
Yeah, I know. They sent around an email saying that they aren't sanctioned by the state. Their formula was a little bit different than yours. They said 1.2